So today's devotion is Article 19 of the Augsburg Confession. And, they wrote these in a certain order for a reason. This is actually a pretty good follow-up to yesterday's devotion, which was talking about free will, which is admittedly a pretty confusing topic from a theological standpoint. So Article 19 is concerning the cause of sin. I'm going to read this because I think the language here is actually, it's good and it's important and it's pretty concise. So, concerning the cause of sin, it is taught among us that although Almighty God has created and preserves all of nature, nevertheless the perverted will causes sin in all those who are evil and despise God. This then is the will of the devil and all the ungodly. As soon as God withdrew his hand, it turned from God to malice. As Christ says, when the devil lies, he speaks according to his own nature. So what this is, bottom line, what this is saying is God is not the cause of sin. Right? It's saying that we sinned in spite of God. But it's not saying that God, it's also clarifying that it's not because God abandoned his creation. Like he's still, there's a very, I guess influential is maybe the right word to use. Prominent might be a good word. Called the clockmaker theory. It's a deistic approach. It says, God created everything, and then he kind of just like left it to work. He put everything in place like a clockmaker, and then he just let the clock run. He wound it up, watched it go. But that's not the God we believe in. We believe in a God who did create everything and actively takes a role in his creation. So if you're going to use the analogy of a clock, he built a clock, he makes it go, but then he's constantly tweaking it and making sure it's going in the right direction. But and this is another one of those things where it's really hard for us to understand exactly how it works. But the reality is we have this free will that we talked about yesterday, and whenever we're left to make a decision, we choose wrong. So it's saying as soon as God's hand is withdrawn at all, our will to malice and to evil takes place. So the cause of sin is the devil. The cause of sin is in us and our brokenness. And so if we're going to say, well, what's the point of this confession? What's the fundamental bottom line? God is not the cause of sin. We and the devil are. And if we're going to talk about, if you want to talk about, how much of sin do we attribute to devils, to spirits, to stuff like that, I would encourage you to go to edgewaterlutheran.org, and there are written devotions that you can. There are tabs at the top. In the Grow tab, you can click Grow. You go down to Written Devotions. It's one of the bottom on. There are a lot of things in that tab. Under the Written Devotions, one of the most recent ones. Actually, by this point, it could be 5 devotions ago, but it talks about spiritual warfare. And that's the title. It's spiritual warfare. So it talks a little bit about that balance, but that's not the point here. The point is, God is not the cause of sin. We are, and the demons, the devil, these rebellious entities against God are. So when things go wrong, when we have been sinned against, when sin breaks the world, when sin messes things up, we don't say, well, God did this. We say sin did this. So, and that's part of this one of these paradoxes I keep kind of bringing up, that where we don't understand how it works, it's an apparent contradiction to us, but we run with it because we trust God at his word. What the point is, when good things happen, they're 100% God's responsibility. When bad things happen, they're 100% our responsibility. And we say, well, if God's responsible for everything, how can we be responsible for everything? And it's like, I don't know, but God knows, and that's good enough for me. If you have, again, I hope this was helpful. I hope this was clarifying. We're getting into some really tough topics, I think. So if you have questions, comments, please put them below so we can have that dialogue as necessary, unless you have a question you would rather ask in a one-on-one setting, in which case, please reach out to me, and we'll have that conversation. So with that, brothers and sisters, go in peace, serve the Lord. Thanks be to God.